Rajiv Bajaj, Managing Director of Bajaj Auto, joins us. Rajiv, thank you very much for joining us. Well, March has looked a tad better for Bajaj Auto, but tell us how the quarter ahead looks, April to June. Do you think that sales for Bajaj Auto in particular will start crawling up? Will it be much better than the Jan-March quarter?
Well, Lata, I certainly hope they will do more than crawl. Let me just briefly share the numbers with you. This is about our domestic motorcycles, where we took the biggest hit up until December. And December was a low with about 60,000 motorcycles sold in the domestic market. We've made good progress over the last one quarter, Jan to March. Basically on the back of the launch of the new motorcycle, the Exceed 135, we've come to about 95,000 vehicles as of March, which is a fairly good growth, and we hope to continue that in April, June quarter, both on the back of Exceed and also on the back of two new launches of the new Pulsars. My own expectation would be that just as we've progressed from 60,000 to 90,000 in the last quarter, we should see almost equal progress into the next quarter. So I'd really like domestic motorcycle sales to be closer to 120,000 motorcycles by the time we come to June.
Well, what about exports, Rajiv? You all practically dominate that scene, and there we have seen some contraction, a fairly serious slowdown. Do you see any improvement in your export markets? What numbers are you projecting for the June quarter in the first place?
For the year as a whole last year, our exports grew by about 25%. We've seen pressure on exports since January, and the reason for this has been very simple, that we were hedged at about 40 rupees to a dollar. And hence we were unable to respond to distributors in countries where their currency had also devalued in recent months. Since 1st April, this situation doesn't exist anymore. We now realize whatever the current rates are, and we've been able to correct our prices for export. So in my own expectation is this, that in April and May, we will see continued pressure on the export front because of whatever is in the pipeline. But definitely from June, that will revive back. And for example, my guess would be that if we are currently exporting about 40,000 motorcycles a month, that should be somewhere between 50 and 60,000 again from June onwards.
Right. Rajiv, this question relates not so much to the quantum of sales you're doing, but to input costs. Could you just walk us through the 2 or 3 main components of inputs that go into the motorcycles? And because of a fall in prices of non-ferrous metals and other metals, how much of a benefit or an increase in margin have you got from just a fall in input prices? If you can just share it per unit, if you could go through that.
Well, the short answer, Ashu, is this, that from, say, Jan, arbitrarily, input prices have softened, and the approximate gain would be in the region of about 800 rupees a motorcycle, depending on the motorcycle we are talking about, but that would be the weighted average. So that's been good. And as of now, it does seem that in the near future, this situation will hold. Having said that, basically in this business, there are only 2 real major costs. One is the cost of material, which is about 70%, let's say, of the cost of what we sell. And the other is really the cost of sales, which means, if you don't have a product that people want to buy, and if you end up pushing it in the marketplace, that costs you a lot of money. So basically, we just got to watch these two, the cost of material and the cost of sales.
Right. So Rajiv, on that 30% cost of sales, how much have you seen an increase in that cost of sales going through? And perhaps, if you have that data ready with you, in terms of correlation between price and increase in sales, how much do you think sales can go up by if you were to cut prices, let's say, by 1,000 or 2,000? So perhaps if you could shed light on 30%, if you've seen that increase in the cost of selling, and 2, how price elastic is the market, or are we saying there's just demand stimulation is not there at the moment?
No, I didn't mean that 30% is the cost of sales. In the cost structure, about 70% is material. About 15% hopefully is the margin we make. There's a few percentage of fixed costs and labor cost, and about, say, 5-7% is the cost of sales. But the cost of sales is the second most important cost after the cost of materials. Having said that, this is very much a brand-led market. This is not a market that rewards people who want to buy market share. And that is why, for example, we moved away from the 100cc segment, which is not an area of our strength, into the 125cc plus segment, which is where we are the leader, which means automatically we realize a better price. So the cost of material as a percentage is lower because the price we realize is higher. And our cost of sales is much lower because products like the Discover, the Avenger, the Pulsar are demanded by customers. They sell well without too much of a push. So the trick is to keep, I think, the overall cost of sales within 5%, and that's roughly where we are.
Okay, Rajiv, I'm not done with two-wheeler questions, but before I forget, I wanted to check out what's the status of the small car launch, your JV with Renault Nissan. What is the timeline? What are your ideas at this point in time?
As far as the schedule is concerned, as of now, we have no reason to believe there is any change in schedule because the development which is led by Bajaj continues as it should be, as it was anticipated from the beginning. And as far as investments are concerned, whether with or without Renault Nissan, Bajaj is going to implement this project. So any constraints that they may have, and I haven't heard of any yet, but any constraints they may have do not affect this project. Also, this project is conceived as a car that comes up from a 2- and 3-wheeler engineering, not down from 4-wheeler. So it is not accompanied by the usually heavy capex that is associated with the automotive industry. In terms of our own focus, it's the same as before. We are not after the cheapest possible car. We are after a little car that will raise the benchmark as far as fuel economy and emission standards are concerned. And I can share with you that from the very beginning we've targeted a fuel economy in excess of 30 kilometers a liter, and I think we are on our way to achieve that. So that represents a big change in terms of on-road fuel economy, and we are equally determined that in terms of emissions, for example in terms of CO2 emissions, which is a big issue the world over, we should be well below 100 gram per kilometer of CO2, and I think we're going to achieve that as well.
Oh, that's a paradigm shift actually, 30 kilometers per litre. What is the timeline? 2011 I remember, but anything more specific in terms of the launch date?
Yes, 2011 is right. Of course, 2011 stretches from 1st of Jan to 31st of December, so I won't elaborate on that. But sometime in 2011, we'd like to put the car out.
Okay. Well, coming back to two-wheelers, is there any change in your strategy to reach out? Much has been made about Hero Honda's rural strategy or getting into rural India. What's the strategy, or is there any change at Bajaj? Also, along with that, if you can tell me whether there are any financing options that you are offering. Last time you told me that you all were offering, but people are not biting.
Yeah. As far as our strategy is concerned, it remains unchanged. And let me just put it like this, that if two big competitors chase the same market, i.e. the 100cc segment, I think in the end all you would have is a commoditized industry. And ever since we've moved away from that segment, one can see that Hero Honda, of course, is doing very well. I don't think I need to elaborate on that. But Bajaj has also done well, and although sales in India may be under pressure, for example, in the quarter that ended December, with an EBITDA at 14.5%, we were in a pretty good position. So I think by focusing on a differentiated segment, if I may say so, we do the industry a favor, and we certainly do ourselves a favor. We will keep with that strategy because I think that's the correct strategy in the long term. As far as the rural aspect is concerned, quite frankly, I don't believe there is anything called rural marketing, at least in the auto industry in India, because that would imply that either in terms of the product we make, or the communication we put out, or the financing we do, we should do something different as a manufacturer for the rural customer versus the urban. Rural marketing in India only means rural reach, rural presence, rural distribution. And I don't think anybody has an edge over anyone else when it comes to that. And even if one does, I don't think that is a competitive edge you can hold on to for more than 2 or 3 months. The trick is to get a product that will crack the middle of the market, which is the strength of Hero Honda. And